for the long haul. And so this will be just a ceremony to kind of make that official. And we have invited some officials who are coming. The new mayor of Morehead City, whose voting thing was just like so amazing. He's going to be joining us, and the mayor from Beaufort will be joining us, some other dignitaries. So it's going to be a big deal, and we're looking forward to having everybody here. We're going to have stuff for the kids to do, and the kids will also participate in the ceremony. We'll have Reverend Julica Herman de la Fuente, is a community minister in Minneapolis, and she's Mexican, so you know she's been going through it. And when I asked her to come, I was like, I know you are going through it. If you want some time to come to the beach and hang out with some other UUs, we're here. And she said yes right away. So happy to have her coming to join us. The following Sunday, Reverend Nathan Ryan, who was my mentor, still is my mentor, will be given the worship service on Sunday. And then after the worship service, Reverend Julica is going to have a workshop kind of on unraveling racism in our congregations and in our communities. So it's going to be a big weekend. We have lots of stuff going on. We're going to be learning some songs today that we're going to sing that weekend. And then Friday, May 8th, the Children and Family Ministries are hosting a potluck, which will be here. And then our last announcement, Harriet, will be a video montage from Friday night's NAACP Gospel Fest. And so here you get it. We hope it works. Yeah.
Mercury's in retrograde.
I'm telling you.
It's Mercury.
Is the, can you reach the sound thing right down below? I know it's always hard to get to because that thing's in the way. You might take it out of presentation mode. Sorry, we're making Harriet work hard today. Oh. All right, Jace is going to help.
Jason's on the computer.
It sounded like something. You doing that? Oh, you know what? I might be able to get the sound on my computer. Let me try that.
It won't sync up to
It might not sync up, but... Harriet, can you put it at the beginning and I'll play it on my computer? No, mine won't work. Oh, maybe because she's got it open.
You can put the mic on your phone.
Okay. Maybe it's not meant to happen today. And maybe we'll try it again at the end of worship service, just in case. Yeah, it's not going to be, yeah, it's okay. We will,
I think there's something physically happening here, so it's not gonna
yeah,
work. So
yeah,
I think something got disconnected behind here, so.
okay. So we will do it another time. But, yeah. Okay. We will bring that another time and make sure it works. But the good news is, Adam, can you hit the lights again, please? The good news is the NAACP raised over $2,000 that night for scholarships, right? And this congregation also raises money for the NAACP, and we raised, I think, over $900 for them in the month that we raised money for them. And each of their scholarships is $1,000. So we know that now 3 more kids are getting a chance to go to college, right? Wonderful. And the choir did great. Maria is just leading them on, and they looked wonderful. And you'll get to hear them sometime soon. All right, and now we're going to center ourselves here in sacred space, letting all the things that didn't work out just drift away. They are okay, and so are you. And we're going to let music deepen the way.
We gather as a community of spiritual seekers, always ready to awaken each other's curiosity. in this beautiful, challenging, and very complex world. May we enter our worship today with open minds, warm hearts, and spirits entranced with possibility of healing, of hope, of transformation, of justice. Please now, let us speak these words together. Come, let us worship together. May this flame, symbol of transformation since time began, fire our curiosity, strengthen our wills, and sustain our courage as we seek what is good within and around us. We also light our peace candle to remind ourselves that peace is a process that requires work, that peace is not merely an absence of conflict, but the presence of justice. Our opening hymn today comes from Mary Grigiola as she was writing the hymn during seminary class on death and dying. And she says of it, "I know this rose," the title of our hymn, "is the answer to my invitation to the deep self. The way I hear it and feel it, I am the rose. Opening is in my nature. Even when it comes time to let go of this body practice, I know this rose will open. And although I may feel afraid of the changes, afraid of the unknown I can't control, afraid of allowing the ego to follow the calling of something deeper, I know those fears will burn away in the fire of transformation, this very physical practice of loving and living and letting go." And as my fear burns away, I know, I trust that the wings of my heart, my soul, will unfurl their wings. Yes, I know this rose will open. I am the rose. We are all the rose opening. Please rise in body or spirit as we sing a song of opening, number 396.
So we are going to sing this through together, all together, twice. And then we will do this as a round in 3 parts. So I am going to be directing. I know this rose. I know this rose. And I know this rose. And by the time we're done, you'll know this rose. Okay.
Our commitment to building beloved community means that we are called to be glad with those who rejoice and to, excuse me, and to weep with those who mourn. We set aside this time in our gathering to share with one another the joys and sorrows that are now shaping each of our lives. Should you wish to share a personal joy or sorrow about a person or persons in your life, there's paper over there to fill out. And I will read it aloud as part of the ritual. This is a sacred ritual that we do in meditative silence, listening to what silence has to say. Come forward, place a stone into the chalice, and know that you are resting that in something larger than all of us. We welcome your joys and sorrows to the ritual. Coming along this way and that way. I will place a stone. A friend of our church, through the Cups group, which is the Coven of UU Pagans, has her own health issues, but right now she's caring for her husband who is battling an aggressive cancer. We send them love as they manage the healthcare process together. I'll also place a stone out of grief about what the Supreme Court has just done with voting rights, stripping away the ability for mostly people of color to be able to participate in democracy. Okay, Karen Baggett is so happy to have her wonderful sister Kristen visiting again. Welcome, Kristen. Moetta says, after 4 years of job hopping, I finally got a full-time position as a teaching assistant, TA, is that right? At Newport Elementary. Fabulous. Congratulations. Let's see, this is Molly's granny is having heart issues and is having surgery this week. That's their grandma. Is that whose grandma is that? Molly. I'm so sorry. We'll send her lots of love. Marion, let's say Colleen, is sharing with us that her mom, Marion, passed away last Monday, April 27th. We are so sorry to hear that, Colleen. We send you love as you grieve. I know Mother's Day is coming soon, too. So we'll be here for you. Nova Soul says that Nova's mommy is graduating with her MBA in healthcare this week. Good job, Nova's mommy. Okay. This comes from those of us joining online that Brian Yance is having surgery, removing a gallbladder on Monday. So we will send all healing energy to you for safe surgery. Jason, Wendy, get out of here. 19 years wedding anniversary is tomorrow. Woo! My goodness. 19 years. All my sisters, so this is to all my sisters and brothers at UCF. Today I am filled with joy and gratitude to be alive. I felt you lifting me up. It doesn't say. Shelley? Where's Shelley? Shelley! The job starts tomorrow. That's incredible. I think that is a job that has been in the works for 8 or 9 months, maybe? A year and a half. That's a long pregnancy. May you find peace in the job, and may it work well for you. Yeah, Helene, I'm right there with you. Sad that the Supreme Court voted to increase racism by obliterating the Voting Rights Act. Absolutely. So you can see here that this is a lot of joy and sorrow held together, and our chalice is flowing over with stones and bells and nuts, and I saw a doubloon in there, and broken shells and barnacles, and one little pink flower floating on it all. This is what it means to be in community together. We thank you all for sharing your joys and sorrows with this family. This community witnesses your joys, your concerns, even the ones not spoken aloud, or those that are slowly forming in your heart. May you know love. May you know peace. And may you be safe. Okay, now it is time for all ages. So if there are any young people who would like to come forward, I'm going to tell a little story. So you can come forward up here if you want. Hi, Jaden. Hi, Odin. All right. Hi, y'all. You want to come forward while I tell a little story? We got some chairs here if you want them. A little baby chair. You can still fit barely. Y'all want to come on in? Come on in, Evan. Yeah, you can also take a flower off or whatever. If you really want a chair, we can move those flowers to the child's table for now. Yeah, that's perfect. These flowers came from an art show last night where they had a raffle for all these beautiful arrangements, and I happened to win it. And I am sending it home with Karen and her sister today, to have a little extra beauty in their house. Okay, so our story today, we are going to be talking about how we forgive people and why we punish people. So this story is about a young goat herder. He lives in a village in Africa. He's young, and his role in his community is to take care of the goats. So every day, he takes the goats out, and he takes them to pastures where they can get food, because if you do not feed goats nature, they will eat your house. Because they like to eat. Yeah, they eat all day long. So you have to take them out. Nope. It's not boy who cried wolf. So this is his role in his community. And what are goats good for? Does anybody know? Yeah. For what? They have herds. Yeah, they like to be together in a herd. Yeah. So they make fur. Their fur can make clothes, and they have milk, right? So you can get milk from them. And I'll say the last word you get. Parker, yeah. I know you're Parker. You want the microphone? No. I know better than to give you the microphone, Parker. Milk. That's right. And what was the other one that you said, Soleil? And meat. What else might goats be good for?
I worked around some goats, and you don't need a lawnmower. They will eat your poison ivy.
So goats are great for mowing your yard. They're great for eating poison ivy. It doesn't bother them. What else are they good for? Making cheese, right? Because once you get the milk, then you can have cheese and you can have butter. What else, maybe?
They don't make sparks when you're mowing the lawn. They're sparkless lawnmowers.
Oh, okay. They're sparkless lawnmowers. They don't hurt the environment. Is that?
They have the red gophers around the fuel tanks.
Uh-huh. All right, you want to add another one? You can use their horns for stuff, right? Yeah. So they are very useful to a community, right? So this young herder, he goes out one morning and he takes the goats out to go eat. And it's a kind of hot day and the sun's beating down, so he gets underneath a tree and the sun is making his eyes very heavy. And he falls asleep underneath the tree. And what do you think happens to the goats? They disappear. What do you think, Odin? You think the goats disappear? Yeah. They might run out somewhere else and cause disorder. Yeah. So some of the goats stayed around eating, but a lot of the other goats, they just started going off. And what can happen is then predators might come and they might eat the goats, or the goats might get lost, right? So he's worried, he's scared. Now he's lost all these goats. So he comes back to the village with the goats that he's got. And what do you think the villagers might have said? They're going to get mad at him. Because the goats, right? The goats that we use all this stuff for. They're going to scold him for not keeping an eye on the goats. What else? Grrr, why did you come here? And what do you think, Odin? Do a what? a disaster, it might be a disaster. Maybe they'll get grounded, right? Or yelled at or scolded. But do you know what they did in this community that's a little bit different? They invited this young man to come to the middle of the village, and everybody surrounded around him. And they did not yell at him. Instead, they said, hey, your name is Abwa. And you got your name from your father's mother. That is her name, and now that is your name too. And they said, we love the way that you wake up in the morning and you're always smiling. That's something we love about you. And then they said, do you remember that time when you were 4 and you put that bucket on your head and you ran around the village making everybody laugh? Do you remember that time? And then they said, do you remember the song that we made up on the day you were born? He's like, I don't remember the song. And so they told him what the song meant, and they sang it to him. And so this was a very different feeling than getting punished and sent to your room or scolded, isn't it? How do you think this might make you feel if that's what happened? Yeah, Parker? Make you feel calm, not scared. Yes, Olay? That maybe it's okay. Yeah, you're going to be all right. Odin. They'd be like nice. It would feel good. Yeah, that was very nice of you because now I feel calm because I thought you were going to yell at me. I thought I was going to be in trouble. So there's so many ways because we're all going to make mistakes. Like all day long we're going to make mistakes, but we never want to like really hurt somebody or punish them or scold them. We want them to know how they're loved in community. So that is what we practice here at this church. And we're going to be talking about it later with the adults. But right now, we're going to let y'all go off to your classes. We're going to sing you to class with the blessing song. Thank you for coming up front. And you can stay here if you want to, or you can go to classes. Sing you were born and it matters what you do. What you know about God is a piece of the truth. Let the beauty you love be what you do. And you don't have to do it alone. Blessing you were born. All right, we're going to actually speed ahead a little bit because we're a little bit behind, and we're going to go to the special music, and we'll see if that video is going to work. Yeah, let's just see if it plays. If it plays, I'm going to talk about it. If it doesn't, we're going to roll right into something else. No, it's definitely our connection. Okay, we're going to catch up on... No, I'll do it at another time. I am going to share with you about the song that we're going to sing the day after the installation. This is a song that comes from Norbert Čapek, who was a Unitarian minister in Czech Republic. He found Universalism here. He brought it back to Czech Republic in the 20s. And he built a church of 3,000 people in Europe. And during the Nazi occupation, he helped his congregation hide people, and he was arrested because of that, and he was taken to Dachau prison, where he died. He was killed there. but along the way he wrote songs, and he made the flower ceremony that we just had a couple of weeks ago. That's such an important part of our Unitarian Universalist rituals that we love so much. So he wrote some hymns, and we're going to sing a hymn on the Sunday after the installation. So next week, we're going to work it into the worship service, or we're going to play it, or we're going to learn how to sing. It's not a hard song at all. I just thought you might like to hear it in its original language, but the tech goddess is not having it today. Okay, so now we're going to go to the reading.
Yes. Our reading comes from Ian Leslie. Our oldest stories about curiosity are warnings: Adam and Eve and the apple of knowledge, Icarus and the sun, Pandora's box. Early Christian theologians railed against curiosity. St. Augustine claimed that, quote, God fashioned hell for the inquisitive. Even humanist philosopher Erasmus suggested that curiosity was greed by a different name. For most of Western history, it has been regarded as, at its best, a distraction, at its worst, a poison, corrosive to the soul and to society. There's a reason for this. Curiosity is unruly. It doesn't like rules, or at least it assumes that all rules are provisional, subject to the laceration of a smart question nobody has yet thought to ask. It disdains the approved pathways, preferring diversions, unplanned excursions, impulsive left turns. In short, curiosity is deviant. Pursuing it is liable to bring you into conflict with authority at some point.
There is a moment in the ministry of Jesus Christ when he stands in the synagogue, unrolls the scroll, and reads, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, to proclaim release to the captives, to let the oppressed go free." And then he sits down and he says, "Today, this scripture has been fulfilled in your hearing." That is a bold beginning. It is not a metaphor or a vague promise. It is a declaration. Freedom is not an abstract idea. It is the work. When Jesus speaks of release to the captives, he is not only speaking spiritually. In his time, captivity was real. Political prisoners, debtors, those cast aside by empire. And again, he moves towards those on the margins, the imprisoned, the condemned, the outcast. He says, "I was in prison and you visited me." He does not say, "You advocated for me from a distance." He does not say, "You judged whether I deserved it," but "You came close." This is a collapsing of distance, a refusal to divide the world into the worthy and the unworthy, the innocent and the guilty. Instead, Jesus insists on something far more uncomfortable and far more transformative, that our humanity is bound together. In Brian Stevenson's book, Just Mercy, he says that meaningful justice work requires us to get proximate to the people and communities most impacted by injustice. By this, he means more than awareness or sympathy from a distance. It's a call to draw close enough to hear real stories, to know names, to understand the complexity of people's lives beyond labels like incarcerated or poor. Stevenson argues that proximity disrupts the narratives that make punishment and inequality feel acceptable. When we are in a relationship, it becomes much harder to dehumanize. Getting proximate also changes us. It reshapes our assumptions, deepens our compassion, and reveals solutions that can't be seen from afar. In this way, proximity becomes both a moral practice and a practical strategy. If we want to build systems rooted in dignity and care, we have to be willing to stand alongside those most affected, not as saviors, but as fellow human beings committed to a more just and merciful world. And this is what Jesus is saying. I was in prison and you visited me. Get proximate. And when a woman is dragged before Jesus, accused and shamed, he does not deny the harm, but he refuses the machinery of punishment. He says, let anyone amongst you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone. In the parable, one by one, the stones fall into the mud. This is not passivity, it is interruption. It is a disruption of the cycle that says harm must always be answered with more harm. You could say that instead of asking, who deserves punishment and how should we punish them, Jesus keeps asking, what restores wholeness and who have we forgotten in the process? In the Gospel of Matthew, Peter came to Jesus and asked, Lord, how many times shall I forgive my sibling who sins against me? Like up to 7 times? And Jesus answered, I tell you, not 7 times, but 77 times. Peter is asking a very human question. How many times should I forgive? As many as 7? And those of you who are siblings have probably had to forgive more than 7 times. Jesus, his response isn't offering a literal number to keep track of. He's refuting the idea that forgiveness can be quantified or even ends. His teaching says that forgiveness is not about avoiding accountability, but about refusing to let cycles of harm boil over into permanent condemnation. It invites a reorientation from keeping score to restoring relationship, from measuring justice by retribution to measuring it by the possibility of transformation. Now we're going to fast forward nearly 2,000 years. Harriet Tubman does not preach from a synagogue. She does not write treatises. She walks. After a physical injury, Tubman began experiencing visions and vivid dreams, which she interpreted as revelations from God. Mystical inspiration guided her actions throughout her life. She spoke of consulting with God and trusted that He would keep her safe. Tubman did not separate her faith from her abolition work. Her calling from God was not abstract spirituality, but an actual source of guidance for real life or death decisions. When to travel, whom to trust, and how to lead others out of enslavement. Harriet seemed to understand her work as participating in God's ongoing movement toward freedom, not as political resistance. Her abolition work and her spiritual life were not two things side by side. They were one integrated path of obedience, courage, and liberation. After escaping her slavery herself, she could have remained in safety, but instead she returns to the South again and again into deep danger. 13 journeys back into the South, 70 people led to freedom, countless more inspired. She was living up to the words of Jesus, release to the captives. She does not wait for permission. She does not ask whether the system can be reformed. She acts because she knows something deep in her bones. Slavery is incompatible with human dignity, and it must be dismantled. But what's striking is not only her courage, and oh my goodness, the courage it must have taken. It is her method. She does not work alone. She builds networks. She builds safe houses along the way, relationships of trust, people who risk together, people who shelter one another, people who believe that freedom is not an individual escape, but a collective transformation. Not an individual escape, but a collective transformation. And Harriet's work wasn't just about escape. It was also about sustaining life after freedom. They needed care. They needed food. They needed shelter. They needed a new belonging. Those are important parts of abolition, too. She cared for formerly enslaved people, raised funds to support their ongoing needs, and later established the Harriet Tubman Home for the Aged, creating a place of dignity and rest for those who endured a lifetime of hardship. Her vision of freedom extends beyond liberation from bondage to the creation of community care and long-term belonging. This mirrors a key abolition principle from our modern movement, that liberation is collective, not individual. Mariam Kaba tells us that abolition today asks a different but related question. What do we do about harm in our communities? And how do we respond without creating more harm? She gives us language that feels both new and ancient. She says, hope is a discipline, not optimism, not naivete, but discipline. Hope that chooses to act even when outcomes are uncertain. Hope that plants seeds it may never see grow. Hope that insists another world is possible, not someday, but in the small daily choices that we make together. And we made some choices this last year when we chose not to install security cameras, knowing that police can subpoena any footage at any time, which could be used against anyone who falls outside of the center, anyone who is poor, immigrant, trans, queer, or even revolutionary. And Kaba reminds us, abolition is not just about what we tear down, it is about what we build. Just like Tubman was saying, first we must get out of the condition, and then we build what needs to be built. If we remove systems rooted in punishment and control, what then are we going to put in their place? Her answer is both simple and demanding. We build systems of care. We invest in communities. We create ways of responding to harm that center accountability, healing, and restoration. And perhaps most radically, she insists no one is disposable. Not the harmed, not the one who caused the harm, no one. A brief moment here to share that there are artists in this country who are incarcerated at the Newport facility. And there is a show at the Carolina Artist Gallery on Arundel that is showcasing their art. The opening is tomorrow night. Maybe you want to go and see their art, to see what they make, even when in the grips of the prison industrial complex. Kaba shares an example of the community harm/repair circle model. A young person in a community space causes harm. Perhaps it's repeated disrespect or manipulation or even violence. Instead of calling police or expelling them permanently from your community, the community uses an accountability process. The person who caused the harm is asked to sit with those affected and listen fully to the impact of their actions and agree to take some steps for repair, such as restitution, apology, agreeing to new boundaries, or sometimes a required separation paired with ongoing support rather than exile. What makes this accountability rather than punishment is not the absence of consequences. It's the presence of relationship and obligation to belonging. The goal is not suffering, but transformation. And transformation is one of our Unitarian Universalist values that is required to build the world we dream of living in. The harmed person's needs are centered, not sidelined. The person who caused harm is expected to take responsibility and not be erased from the community. And here's the biggie. The community itself takes responsibility for conditions that allowed harm to occur. That's big. And I think this relates to our covenant that we use here at this congregation. And when one of us is out of covenant, all of us are out of covenant. And it is our collective responsibility to make our own transformations in how our communities are structured, that we ourselves reduce the conditions that allow harm to grow. A key idea from her book, We Do This Till We Free Us, is we know that transforming old habits and processes is imperfect, slow, and difficult, but still preferable to systems that isolate, cage, or permanently exile people without transformation. Punishment may create distance, which we might interpret as safety, but it rarely creates repair. Our prisons are not rehabilitation centers. Here is an alternative reality. A community is faced with harm. They do not outsource it. They do not erase the person who caused it. Instead, they build a circle strong enough to hold truth, pain, responsibility, and repair all at once. And they discover that justice is not something done to someone, it is something built between people. Justice is not something done to someone, it is something built between people. This is not easy work, and it is not political work, it is spiritual work. It is one thing to speak of compassion in the abstract. It is another to apply it when harm is real, when pain is personal, and when fear is present. Abolition is not about pretending that harm doesn't exist. It's not about excusing violence or abandoning accountability. It is about asking a deeper question. What actually creates safety? Do security cameras actually create safety? Is it punishment alone? Or is it relationships, resources, healing, and the conditions that prevent harm from happening in the first place? Jesus seemed to believe the latter. Tubman acted as if it was so. And Miriam Kaba invites us to practice it now. There is a thread that is weaving all three of these together: a refusal to give up on people, a refusal to accept systems that dehumanize, and a commitment to build something more life-giving. Jesus feeds people, he heals people, he restores people to community. Tubman guides people and shelters people, risks everything for their freedom. And Kaba organizes people, teaches people, and insists that we create structures where everyone can belong. This is abolition as a spiritual practice. Not just ending cages, those literal or metaphorical cages, but cultivating a world where cages are no longer needed. Long haul work for sure, but we might as well begin. So what does that mean for us here today? It might mean we start small. We practice seeing one another more fully, not reducing each other to our worst moments. We invest in relationships, even when it is inconvenient. We support systems in our communities that provide care, housing, food, mental health support, education. It might mean we learn more about restorative justice, ways of addressing harm that bring people together rather than tearing them apart. It might mean we challenge our own instincts towards judgment and ask instead, what would it look like to respond with accountability and compassion? And it certainly means we hold on to hope, not as a feeling, but as an active discipline. I imagine Harriet Tubman walking under the night sky, guided by the North Star. She cannot see the whole journey. She cannot guarantee the outcome, but she walks anyway. And I wonder, what are the systems in our world that still keep people captive? What are the fears that keep us from imagining something different? That curiosity, that reading that Penny wrote about how dangerous curiosity is. What are the fears that keep us from imagining something different? And what would it mean to hear, truly hear, that ancient declaration? The Spirit of the Lord is upon me to proclaim release to the captives, to let the oppressed go free. Not as history, not as metaphor, but as invitation. May we be a people who answer that call. May we be a people who practice hope. May we be a people who build what we long to see and feel. And may we together learn how to set one another free. Amen. All right, and the next song that we're getting ready to sing is one that Reverend Micah taught y'all, and you sang it for his going away ceremony back before I came. It's called We Shall Be Known. And I want us to practice this again because we will be singing it together at the installation service on Saturday, May 16th at 5 p.m. Please rise in body or spirit that we sing of how we shall be known.
Okay, we're just going to get one line, and then So I'm going to do a lot of this, okay? We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of life within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. Notice those pauses. I've got to get this somewhere where I can... Just right there. Perfect. Okay.
And again.
1, 2, 3, 4. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. Good job. We're going to have this down.
Yeah.
All right.
We invite the greeters to come forward for our collection today. Our offering this month will be shared with Coastal Carolina River Watch. They serve a total area of 320 miles of rivers and streams, 140,000 acres of estuaries, and 129 miles of coastline in the White Oak River Basin. They protect the quality of water and quality of life in coastal North Carolina through boots-on-the-ground monitoring, outreach, and advocacy in our communities. Please give generously to support this wonderful organization, which is doing so much to protect our natural resources. Thank you.
Transformation is hard. Changing things is hard.
Strange spirits in the church, the demons.
But no punishment, only love. Right? Your names are Amy, and Lee, and Sandra. And we love you all.
Thank you. Please join in blessing this offering with hymn number 402, From You I Receive. Please join me in reading our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Now in Espanol, extinguimos, please help me. Pero no la luz de la verdad, el calor de comunidad, o el fuego de nuestro compromiso. Estos los llevaremos en el corazón hasta que estemos juntos otra vez. Jaime wins the prize for finishing first.
It is UCF tradition to join hands and form anything close to a circle around the edges of the sanctuary. If you prefer to stay in the middle and be surrounded by our love, please do so. All right, here come the edges. Nobody left outside. Everybody wrapped in. I think we're connected in a beautiful little heart. Curiosity brought you here and now follows you out. As you step into the rest of your day, notice what makes you lean in. What makes you look twice? May small questions open spacious paths, and that you may come back and share what you have found. Amen. Amen. Woo-hoo.
I like hearing everybody when they speak.